I'm stressing, I'm the king of the game. From coast to coast, you know they know my name. Got the beats.
You gonna my one side. You make me give number. Me no feel look and pass.
Hello, you Newcastle fan, you out there watching. We're going to have a nice show today, a transfer show. It's going to be great because I believe that we are not going to get anybody. And Philip, I have a feeling that he's going to think that we're going to get Mbappe and Haaland in this transfer window. It's going to be a big contrast, ladies and gentlemen, of this show. So listen, stay tuned. A few things. Smash the like button. It helps us a lot to keep growing. Please, everybody, hit the like button. Subscribe if you're new. And if you are listening on the audio listening platforms such as Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, I appreciate you for listening to the show. Rate us, like if you like the show. And yes, I appreciate you for listening, and I appreciate you for watching on YouTube. And follow us on our social medias as well at TAM NUFC Pod. You can follow us on Twitter and interact with us. It's me and Philip from Toon Tactics TV. His link to his channel is in the description below. You can follow him, and you can, of course, subscribe to him because he makes amazing NUFC content. Philip, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing really, really well. I had almost like a brief epiphany when you first called the transfer window, and I was thinking to myself, what if we just sat and we said we announced it to everyone, NUFC transfer window, everyone locked in, and we just sat in silence for about 30 minutes, and then the show was over.
Exactly. That's how I feel the show needs to be today. Because I don't think we have anything positive to say. Maybe one. Listen, this is the thing. I think that I don't know how do you describe yourself, but I am always thinking something's going to go wrong, and that's a bad thing. And I don't know, maybe you are an optimist, or maybe you're not. But it's a nice contrast.
So
what do you think?
are you a glass half full or a glass half empty kind of guy? Which one?
It all depends, because if you tell me no FFP, if you tell me we got all the money but we can't use it, then I'm like, damn, then that's not good, is it? Like, is it if I go to a store and to get ice cream, I go to an ice cream shop, and then I have trillions in my bank account, but I didn't bring my card, and I'm like, I can tell the lady in the counter, listen, I'm the richest guy in the world. Give me ice cream. Well, she's not gonna give a damn. You know what I mean? It's about swiping the plastic. That's why I call myself a plastic fan, because it's about swiping that American Express plastic, man. And listen, we're gonna have a great show, of course.
But saying that, if say you are the glass half empty type of guy, say for instance, this incredible show that you got going, most people think about doing something like this or starting a business or whatever, and don't go through with it. So there's one thing about being maybe a cautious or pessimistic person and not doing anything about it. There's another thing about being cautious, optimistic, pessimistic, but doing something about it. So he who dares wins. So I think that's what we've got to do. That's what we've got to do today.
Right. All right, so we can get started. Look, let's talk about FFP and what it's doing to us, right?
Okay.
I don't think that we've dove deep. I got a lot of pieces. I got pieces of information. Ian Davison, he's part of the show, and he's been sending me some news. Some things are, confirmed. He's kind of my filter with that, because I don't even know who to trust. You know what I mean? At this point, because anybody would just write anything out there to get views, to get clicks, and actually, so do we. That's why we have a show. If nobody watched, then we wouldn't have a show. But at least we try to be transparent in what we're doing. And so I have a few things that I would like to share, but we're going to do it throughout the show. But we got to talk about FFP, because I feel like we haven't really talked about what it actually means, how it actually is supposed to help teams, has it help anybody at this point? And also, what's happening right now? Everton, Nottingham Forest, looking like they're going to be sanctioned. Everton could get relegated, and that's a big deal because they surely didn't deserve it on the pitch. You know what I mean? When it comes to playing, they don't deserve to get relegated. But you're going to relegate a team, relegate not the biggest team, but not the smallest team. Is Everton. You're going to relegate Everton. I mean, that sets a precedent that you cannot go back from. So and there's talks that FFP rules might change. So let's talk about it, Philip.
Yes, sir.
And you're the smart man in this show. I just push buttons. I tell people that, and you know more about this than I do. I don't know what the hell FFP is supposed to do. I don't even think it's accomplished anything yet. But let me know what are your thoughts, brother?
I'm gonna do a rough context into FFP. Into the chat, into the audience. You know, I'm not like I'm not gonna give you the chronicles of FFP and understand every technical term, but I'll give you kind of a rough outline. Okay, the main reason, obviously, FFP was brought into play was after you had a number of football clubs in and around, for instance, Blackburn Rovers, Portsmouth, all those that have been football fans for over 20, 30 years will know that, and Leeds, for instance, but particularly Blackburn Rovers and Portsmouth, who had really bad experiences in having really bad owners who were bought by owners who were supposedly, especially the Portsmouth case, who were supposedly very rich owners and they hit up the debt of the club, only to find out that they didn't have as much money and they just abandoned and left the club. And the Premier League had to essentially bankroll these clubs and in order to stop them from being bankrupt and from being totally dissolved. And so FFP was essentially designed to protect the Premier League, but also protect those clubs from being put in those positions again of being kind of under rogue. You could call them rogue owners or neglectful owners, or just not real, just frauds essentially. Right. And so that it was designed to do in order to do that, because the Premier League football, and I don't know if there's any other sport in the world, but people can correct me, is that essentially most clubs do not make profit. They're not sustainable businesses. I mean, if for instance, imagine NUFC Insiders was always working out of debt. Like Chris was just continuously pulling money into it, but it wasn't there. It wasn't making any money essentially, right. And so it's always kind of based on the future promise sometimes. But then if the clubs don't create that money, don't create that profit, those clubs end up being buried totally, perpetually in debt essentially. And one thing that we always say, for instance, in terms of Mike Ashley, we'll probably go into him a bit deeper. He was a horrible owner. I think if you talk about between him and for instance and Levy, they took two different strategies when it came to FFP. Whereas Mike Ashley said, "I'm not going to put any money into Newcastle," and he didn't. And people remember the year when we finished 5th, and that summer he only bought Vernon Nita for 4 million. That was horrendous. That's just one of the things that Mike Ashley done. He said, "I'm not going to spend any money. I'm not going to be in any debt." And Newcastle was profitable, but it wasn't profitable because we were, had outstanding promotions and advertisements. That was the opposite. We just didn't spend any money. Whereas Levy and Tottenham fans will complain about him. He was very, very focused on making Tottenham profitable, building the stadium, putting go-karts, putting Beyonce concerts and stuff like that, where he's almost left, where he's got a divided attention between the money-making side of the club and the glory on the pitch. And so that's the kind of two opposite ways that people have gone about it. So FFP was essentially designed to protect really the Premiership from itself and clubs from not being sustainable. However, the other end, and I'm sure this is the part we're going to start talking about, is the other end is where clubs actually want to compete, and the feeling that their legs are being cut off by some of the laws and regulations that have been put in place.
Yeah, and I think, and listen, that is a great concept to say the least, but you definitely penalize teams like a Newcastle United club and any other club for that matter, not just Newcastle, that they buy into it, they buy a business, and you want to. There's a reason why you buy a business that's already there, because you think you can better it, you think you can make it better, you think you can invest into it, expand. And so, if you're not able to do that, it is a very, very tough situation to overcome. And I know that it goes. I mean, obviously, the club existed before, and the books probably don't add up right now to this point and we got losses as well, and so things don't add up for us to be able to spend. But I feel like when you buy an establishment, you should be able to have at least 1 or 2 years or 3 years to say, okay, you get this amount of time so you can get your business right, and then you can adhere to the rules of everybody else. Don't you think that would be a fair thing to do?
Yes, and I think Simon Jordan came up with a similar idea on Talksport when he was saying, clubs, the owners that take over clubs should be given a 2-3 year period, grace period, essentially to build that infrastructure and to spend what they want in that meantime.
Mm.
I think there's a lot of things going on at the same time. Obviously, the rules were in place at some point, but they weren't enforced, or they weren't being rigorously investigated or looked at by the Premier League. And there's this, obviously now a sense of feeling, for instance, around FFP, around Man City, and understanding, and people putting, for instance, what's happening with Man City in the same basket as Everton. But Man City and Everton are two different things. So there's a lot of kind of in terms of what's happened with them. And I think when it comes to the other end, what we're talking about, being able to compete and you should be able to spend what you want to spend. I think there's 2 or 3 things going on. In the Premier League itself, the government is essentially, how do I say, almost threatening to take over the Premier League and become like an independent regulator. Because what it's saying is that Premier League, you are not looking after the league properly, and you're allowing teams, football clubs, to spend what they want and not be sustainable at all. And so that money that they're spending, so say for instance, like clubs just were able to spend billions and billions of pounds on transfers and on players, for instance, that would blow the whole transfer window up. Wages will go through the roof and everything else. And so the government has said, look, we're going to step in as if you don't do something about this Premier League, you've got these rules that you're not enforcing, we're going to step in and we're going to be the financial regulators. So now the wider context is that the Premier League wants to show to the government, listen, we have got rules and we will enforce these rules. Hence why they're, for instance, shortening the timeline on some of these cases like Everton's and Nottingham Forest's and Crystal Palace's, and dealing with certain cases a lot sooner. I think where the tension comes in is people are saying, but look at Man City, look how long their case is doing, but they're dealing with Crystal Palace and Everton. But the reality is, if people take the time out to read it, is that the Man City, for instance, are saying they're not guilty of anything. And there's millions and millions of documents for the Premier League to read through. Whereas Everton are saying, we're guilty. Mm-hmm. Can you deal with us slightly, please? And so it all moves up a little bit faster.
No. Let me ask you this, because this is an interesting take that I talked about it yesterday, but I was by myself and a friend of mine. Actually, I think you might have seen him, Laurent Cortines. He does the Football Tonight podcast with me, and he mentioned me today live and actually or privately. He said, "Look, Manchester City are more than likely culpable. I mean, they're more than likely made a big mistake, or purposely or not on purpose. But they said, look, we're going to get our players, we're going to spend, and we're not going to admit to anything." It obviously extends their situation, because eventually you feel like at some point justice will be served. But I mean, but you deny, and like you said, Everton came out and said, "Yeah, we're guilty." So, do you ever think? Is it ever in your thought process that Newcastle might be cornered to, you know what, let's do what we need to do? Or do you think that at this point in time, there's too many eyes on Newcastle for us to even attempt to feel that way?
That's a very, very quick question. Before I go on to that, though, can I just ask, why does it think that Man City are guilty?
Well, He's just he feels like
Just saying it.
they did it.
Okay.
It feels like they did it. I mean, they messed up. They messed up on the books, and it is what it is. He feels like if they get relegated, so be it. It doesn't matter because we'll come back the next season better than ever. So
Yeah,
that's what
yeah.
it is.
And I think, look, at the end of the day, if you feel that you're not guilty, you're not guilty. Why do you have to just make things easy for everyone and say
Right.
I'm guilty? Plus, there's a thing about there's almost like this how do I call it, like corporate warfare that's going on between clubs. Take for example what happened with the multi-club ownership, and whether, before the transfer window started, this big old vote starting whether clubs who own other clubs, like, in terms of Newcastle United and Saudi Arabia clubs, should be able to purchase or to loan players from clubs from other teams that are owned by the same owners. That all started off when Dan Ashworth whispered the name Ruben Neves.
Mm,
He whispered it into the ether to see what would happen. And the
right.
whole conference of leagues, and we all know who the teams who voted against it are.
Right.
It's all the teams that have owners, including Nottingham Forest, Wolves, Newcastle United, Chelsea, Man City, and a couple, I think Everton and a couple other clubs. And the only reason it didn't come through is because of one club. The majority, we won that majority by one club. So there's actual football corporate warfare that's going on. So at one side, the Premier League are trying to say, look, we're trying to, the face of it saying we're enforcing these laws to sustain profitability of these clubs. But if you're Man City, or if you're or Everton or Chelsea, you're thinking, you're saying that, but I don't trust your motive.
Hmm.
You're saying that, but really you're just trying to cut off my legs. Like, even when, look how long it took Newcastle owners to take over the club, for instance.
Right.
Some of that people would say because of the piracy that was going on in Saudi Arabia, but people know that the owners of Tottenham, Liverpool, especially, went and pressed heavy on the Premier League to essentially stop this move from happening, because their fear was, listen, our owners not only just, they're not just a little bit richer or a few $billion richer. They're 10, 20 times richer than their owners.
Right.
And they were scared of the competition. Hence why this press for Super League that's coming on. So there's all these little spinning plates that are going on, that even if the Premier League, say the Premier League was a altruistic, uh, saint that was just trying to put in these laws that would help the Premier League, all the other clubs are watching this and saying, no, but you're doing this because you don't, you want to impress Tottenham and Jurgen Klopp. You're doing this because you don't want to upset the top six. You're doing this because the government is
Right.
leaning heavier on you, not because that you're actually trying to put in something healthy into the Premier League. So there's all these spinning plates that are going on
Right.
at the moment.
Yeah. No, I do agree with a lot of what you're saying, and I get the part where they're. I mean, look, a lot of people are saying that they're covering up for, or protecting the cartel, the so-called
Yeah,
cartel, right? And that
yeah,
that might well be true as far as
yeah.
financial, it might work, but I don't necessarily have 100% proof of that, and so I'm gonna say that I think that they have good intentions, but at the end of the day, they need to fix it. Now we're hearing something about they might change some rules. Why
Yeah,
are they changing these rules, and what are they changing? Because we want change, of course, 100%. But is it, is the pressure that Newcastle is putting, the notoriety across the globe, because it is being talked about, and it's also,
yeah,
it could prevent future owners, not just Saudi owners. They have all the money in the world, but I'm talking about anybody that's a billionaire. There's a lot of them that could potentially invest in the club. Why would I buy Crystal Palace with an idea of maybe making it a big club if I'm not ever going to be? I mean, what's the point? You know what I mean? When they bought into Newcastle United, there's a lot of things that was great about it. It's a one club, one town type club.
hmm
Its fan base is massive.
hmm
It is a name that is known in the world of football. It's not
hmm
your typical, with all due respect. Well, I'm not gonna say any other name, but you get the
hmm
point. It's
hmm
Newcastle United. It's
hmm
not at the peak right now, but we can make it there. And
hmm
financially it makes sense. And of course, everywhere else it makes sense. So they want to
hmm
invest. Why would they want to invest in a club that they're not going to be able to accomplish anything? It makes no
Mhm.
sense. So, do you think that pressure is getting to them right now at this point, as to where they want to make changes and announcing them or leaking those future changes, um, because they're feeling the pressure at this point?
Yeah, I feel it. I think they're feeling pressure from that, but also a lot of other kind of areas. So, for instance, um, before the Newcastle, as the Newcastle owners began to take over and were making sponsorship deals, for instance, the Premier League started saying, "Okay, we you can't just get a sponsorship deal from anywhere, or you can't get sponsored by with any valuation you want. We have to approve that valuation, and we're going to use these criteria, the algorithms to your is it fair market value and stuff like that. All that kind of so who sets the value? Who's in charge of that value? Who says, imagine you are trying to sell me a
Yes,
car, Chris, but a third person, Ian, gets to decide how much you can sell that car to be for, and and you're selling
yeah, it just
your,
makes no sense.
so those type of things. So that's when the grief comes in from teams like Newcastle saying you're doing this uh, um, to satisfy Liverpool, to satisfy Tottenham. Okay, so we've got 4 clubs in Saudi Arabia, and we might just get Ruben Neves, we might get Malik Savic, we might do this, we might do that, and now all of a sudden there's a whole. Then they have to run over somewhere else and say, okay, maybe you have to think about this multi-club ownership. So then the owners are doing something smart. I don't know if people notice, for instance, the only reason Liverpool were able to spend money in this transfer window is because they were able to sell Firmino, Henderson, and others to where? To the Saudi League, courtesy of whose owners? Our owners. And also Chelsea as well are able to stay afloat because of selling players to the Saudi League. Because of whose owners? Our owners. So our owners are
Exactly.
playing a really long-term goal with here, saying, hey, Premier League, um, I know people are saying we're going to get Karim Benzema and we're going to get all these players, but we haven't got anybody. In fact, we sold ASM when everybody thought we'd sell him for 50 million. Remember, Ruben Neves went for 40, 50 million, and everybody thought we're going to sell ASM for 50 million. We went by, and I'm sure they coordinated this with the Premier League by your valuation of ASM, and we sold him for 25 million. Everybody was thinking that's a steal, right? So I think the owners are playing an interesting game. Plus, they got the threat from Saudi League where all the players are going to go there. Gabri Vega, for instance, 21 years old, a hot talent from Spain, could have had his pick of clubs, is going to Saudi Arabia. So the more you, for instance, squeeze the Premier League and and like you said, erode the competition, you're going to get more and more talent. You're going to get more and more, talent. And I wonder if Jose Mourinho, for instance, is going to go to Saudi Arabia now. And so they got that pressure, they got that competition going on. Plus
Yeah,
the kind of the shadow of the Super League and the potential of that's going to happen. Um, you know, they're under a lot of pressure. So who do they satisfy? Whose interest do they satisfy? How can they remain objective in this time? So they got a lot of pressure from a lot of different areas
sir.
about how they go about this.
Yes, the Premier League has benefited a lot from Middle Eastern owners because they bring in all the cash in the world, the real money. And
Mhm,
any money is the same, but man, they bring in a lot. They bring in a
mhm,
lot, and so it's an interesting situation that we're going through as far as the FFP. Now, when it comes to Newcastle United, there's a piece of news that came out today, and I don't like to necessarily talk about rumors. We're going to talk about what the rumor about. We're just going to put it out there so people can have their say, and I'm going to go to the comments next. But in your thoughts, um, and everybody else's thoughts, the commenters, and of course Philip. We're going to talk next about the situation with Yasir Al-Rumayyan is Newcastle's chairman, and he's facing potentially a 58 million pound lawsuit. And we're just going to touch on that briefly because this is a transfer show. We got to talk about transfers, potential people, players leaving, potential players coming, rumors out there, and if we can even get anybody. So we're going to talk about that in depth, but just a few, just a few words, Philip, on this situation that's been going on actually for 3 years, and people are acting like it just came out today. We're going on for 3 years, and yeah, man. Let me know what your thoughts are before we go to the comments.
Yeah, to be honest, I only read like the synopsis of the article. From what I gathered, is either an ex-employee or whatnot that was saying that actually made a counterclaim against Rumayyan. So Rumayyan's made a claim against him, and this person made a counterclaim saying, "Look, Rumayyan has essentially threatened me and threatened members of my family on the behest of MBS." Is that correct, or is there a bit more meat onto that story?
Well, yes, I read almost the same thing that you're talking about. But my biggest thing
Yeah.
is here. Why this comes out today? Why? What is the purpose of this? Um, do you see, like many Newcastle fans? Do you see like there is kind of persecution of anything surrounding Newcastle United at this point, or do you think that it's just it's a famous chairman. It's a Premier League club, so they have to talk about it. Or do you think that they're digging, trying to get something, a rise out of everybody else that and also out of Newcastle fans that think they're being persecuted by just this piece of news, FFP, and obviously everybody else, the colloquial talk, oil money and you're owned by oil and all this stuff. Do you think that why else would we be talking, or not us talking, but at least these rumors coming out about chairman and us being sick individuals for backing up our chairman. I tell this before you go. I tell this to everybody. If I don't know about it, I'm not gonna say you're a bad person, you're a good person. Why would I
Mm,
comment or put past judgment on something that I have no idea about? Today, somebody was coming at me on Twitter talking about, man, I get the fans need to back up their club, but how could you back up this? I'm like, what? Back up what? You don't even know what you're talking about. What are the facts? You know what I'm saying?
no, you're right, and I think unfortunately, the people who claim not to be, what's the word, biased or stereotypical, often become the most biased and stereotypical people. Because and even separately, I watched a separate show yesterday where someone noted the fact that, when it comes to Middle Eastern owners, for instance, Newcastle owners, Man City owners, there is always that kind of claim of oil money, like it's different from any other money, like it's different from American money,
Exactly.
like it's different from
Exactly.
British money. What is it about this oil money? Is it extra slick? Like, what is it like? What is it about it
Yeah.
that this oil money that seems to threaten you so much? And so there's
Exactly.
almost that divide that people have created, and I think there's, obviously, I haven't read the article in a great extent. I think obviously I'm going to say it probably comes from, there's different interests in the article. Obviously, the journalist, it's a good story. If you're a journalist and a story like that comes across, you're not going to say, put yourself in that journalist's shoes. You're not going to say, do you know what? I don't want to rile up the Newcastle fans, so I'm not going to write this blockbuster story. You're going to write the story. This is what makes a career,
Right.
essentially. However, at the same time, I think there's a lot of um I almost want to say espionage, but almost like again, corporate warfare going on. Dan Ashworth mentions the name Ruben Neves, and it goes into the atmosphere and causes a whole other stuff. We say we're going to buy Barella, we end up buying Tonali. Um, our CEO comes out and says, you know what, FFP, we've got to sell. Or kind of doesn't say it, doesn't say we've got to sell a player, but it infers that, if we've got to buy by FFP, we can't just buy anything. We've got to sell. Imagine if we sell a player for 50 million, then amortization. So he doesn't say he's got to sell a player, but he kind of infers that there could be. So there is a bit of also play from our owner saying, look, we can't even compete unless we sell. And we do
Exactly.
this, and we do this every transfer window. And then the FFP, and it's not fair. And sometimes I do think it goes a little bit too far. Hence, you might get that maybe kickback from the Premier League if they were even involved in this story by saying, yeah, just remember that these owners aren't, it's not your typical billionaire from the chocolate Charlie in the chocolate factory type of billionaire. These guys are powerful people,
Yeah.
and who are involved in interesting regimes and governments. And do you remember that owners test? Remember that owners test, guys? If you don't pass the owners test because of various things, that we might look into it a little bit more deeper. So it's a bit of
Yes.
to and fro in those type of directions. But look, I bet either side can't wait for the transfer window to be over.
Right. No, that is right. Let's go.
you
Let's
know,
go with the comments. Beard says, "Please sign Ederson. he completes out on
Oh.
midfield, the likes of Longstaff will finally be phased out. Look at that. Look at Beard.
Music to Chris's ears. He's rubbing his chin. He's like, yeah.
Ooh, hey man. Listen, I'm not gonna comment on Longstaff anymore this whole season.
You
I'm
haven't
not
even
gonna say.
seen Edison, but you're already vouching for him before
But
because
look,
it's a long
I'm
stuff.
vouching for any signing. If you're a young player, I mean, I looked at his highlights today. He ain't looking bad, man.
Yeah,
He's
yeah,
a
yeah, 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 yeah.
he is similar
Yeah.
to Calvin Phillips. He's similar to Calvin
Yeah,
Phillips,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
so they might not be bad. But
Mhm.
we'll see. Do you just quickly before we go to another? Do you think that actually, let's wait because I feel like we're gonna get into these future possible signings. Robbie, big up Robbie says Australia in the house. Big up Aussie Robbie, man. He is a great
Big up to
chatter,
you,
of
sir.
course. And what right now in Australia must be what time is it? I think it's like 7, 8. No, I think that's the next day. I don't even know, man. It's just crazy timing. I figured, my ignorant self. I thought, Australia, UK, they're probably, similar. And no, I was way off. I was way off. Stephen Field, big up Steven, says Eddie Howe needs help from the owners badly. Bruno is 2 cards away from a 2-match suspension. Yes, sir. That is a fact. And but to say the least, I mean, Bruno is going to be put in that. He's put in that situation also unfairly. Obviously, he feels like he has to do anything and everything. So it's going to happen at this point. He's going to get those yellow cards. I think the last one was a bit, uh, if I'm not mistaken, a bit unwarranted. Uh, it- just looking at yeah, it was because I remember now. He went for the ball, got the ball. I don't know. In my
Was it Rodri? Tread on Rodri's toe
I
or
think
something.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Was it?
Was it
Yeah,
that
I
one?
believe so.
Okay.
Maybe so. I just felt like at that time it wasn't warranted. But then again, he is going to be put in those positions because
He's not getting enough
unfortunately
support. Yeah.
Lewis Miley, young lad, he couldn't get support, and he also couldn't get support from other players surrounding him, who I may not name ever again this season. And Robbie says only trust Fabrizio Romano. Yeah, 100%. I mean, he seems to have the scoop, and also he gets told already without even asking. Uh, he's gotten to that
Yeah,
level.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Jordy Z says a question for Tune Tactics. Can we spend some of next year's 105 million pound loss and send less in the summer, or spend less in the summer? Because I heard that the accounts are only reviewed every 3 years. Ooh.
Yeah, so I told I'm not an expert in this. From what I know, you're right. The accounts are so there's a cycle of 3 years from the time that we took over. I think we're in 2 years now, 2.5 years. So I think this summer, like you said, will be the final year of this 3 year cycle, and so we can invest another 105 million. And so
Mm.
you might be right that it's either this summer it it ends and then the winter transfer window, or this summer it ends and we can spend that money. So, and there seems to be a lot of geared towards that. That Adidas sponsorship deal, which starts that summer, as well as other deals, as well as obviously themselves spending a lot. So it's all kind of feels like they're all kind of gearing up for
Yeah,
something really, really,
right.
really big for this upcoming summer. So yeah, you could be very, very much right. Very, very right.
Stephen Field, see how Richard Masters referred to Forest and Everton as small clubs proves they only cared about the cartel. Yeah, Everton is not a small club,
Did he
and
say that? Did he actually say they're small clubs?
I I'm not 100%,
I'll be
but
amazed if he did that.
I mean that's shocking. Um, that it is shocking. I don't know who Richard Masters is, to be honest with you. What is he?
He's
A
the
pundit?
like no, he's like the head of the governing body of the Premier League. So
Oh my God!
he was responsible for like approving our
A
takeover and all that
takeover,
kind of stuff
which
there.
they didn't want to let. I mean, I'm gonna tell you this: it was very tough. Um, always waiting on the Premier League to do a lot. I think I remember Amanda Stavely had to. I remember her like going to London for some reason and she was
She
calling on
was
fans. She was making that deal. She was working that deal, man. She was working that deal. And as you mentioned earlier, and almost brought tears to my eyes when it said, uh,
oh
that
hi
it,
little man.
hey, that's River, my son River. Say hi. Show your hand. Say hi.
Hola,
Yeah.
senor.
It says, oh, he doesn't speak Spanish, but you know what's crazy? He is when he sees a Hispanic person, he'll say hi to him in Spanish, "Hola," and then speaking English
You got to
to
teach him. You got to teach
yeah.
him.
But it is funny because at times it makes you feel a little bit uncomfortable when he says hello to 10 people, and the one Hispanic he says "Hola" to. It is quietly right, but it also makes it feel like, oh man, you're already looking at looking at the looks of people, and just makes me want to be wary a little bit. But no, he's awesome. And what I was trying to say is that it almost didn't happen. Well, they didn't do the takeover in 2020. Remember, they pulled out of the deal for certain reasons. They call it piracy and all that stuff, and that it brought tears to my eyes almost when you mentioned that, because
Ah,
I saw Newcastle flash before my very eyes, and then almost a year later, um, they were good. But Amanda,
especially
yeah,
because we nearly got relegated that season again.
yes,
Because
yes,
Steve Bruce was trying his best to get
yeah,
relegated. Goodness, because that
uh,
season, the last like couple games or 5-6 games, Maxi and Callum Wilson came back from injury and
right.
literally saved us. So
Yeah. I
yeah,
still feel the PL looking at FFP in February, according to Masters.
yeah,
Okay. February. All right. Well, Inter Yamada, big up Lewis. Inter Yamada says, let's just do some under the table deals and get it over with. It's not like the UK government hasn't been
I
doing
think. Yeah, I think we're being even smarter than that. I think we're doing over the hand deals. That's been causing the problem. So everybody's, like I said, going back to that whole multi-club national thing that everybody was complaining about, including Liverpool, and then they went to our clubs in Saudi Arabia and sold all their players. So you didn't think that hard. You weren't that, you
Yeah.
didn't think that badly of it, did you? So
I almost
essentially,
feel like it almost feels like, and I don't know if this per se pisses the Premier League off, but I feel like we are 100% honest, and we're too cool about it, and as if it, as if it doesn't bother us, and I think like they're just looking at these guys, are they following it? I think that's what we get a little bit looked at twice. Uh,
yeah. And look, remember, even again, when that vote happened, the Telegraph reported it as the Newcastle led rebellion. So Newcastle led Man City, Chelsea, Nottingham Forest into rebellion against the Premier League. So
yeah,
that's the kind of perception they're given. And when they saw pictures of Amanda Stavely and others, for instance, at Chelsea, they're like, oh, we're going to get Conor Gallagher. Oh, we're going to get this player. I think they had much deeper meetings than that. I think
yeah,
they were saying, we're at war here.
yeah.
Liverpool, Tottenham are coming after us. Are you with us or not? Because they're coming after you. I know, all them players that you're buying.
That is true. That is true, man. That is true. And again, I think that we're just too cool for school, man.
Someone should make a series about this, but almost like make it a film, because
Yeah,
literally I can only imagine. Because look, I always tell folks, and I know that she's an incredible lady, Stavely and all of that,
yeah.
but you can't get to the position that she's getting to, that she's at, without being ruthless, or
I was
having
about
a
to say that. I was
ruthless
about to say.
personality.
Yes, I was
You
about to.
cannot.
You know what's going to happen to Newcastle are going to make a documentary out of this. We're going to sell it. We're going to sell it to Prime Video again. We're going to get millions out of that, and we're going to get our FFP right. So you know what I mean? I'm telling you, man, we're some pimps.
Well, we kind of already did it, obviously, with the all or nothing. And people were saying, but it wasn't like Tottenham's or Arsenal, where it was other players, where this is a lot more about the owners. And the owners know what they're doing. They
Yeah,
focused the whole documentary on what? The FFP.
that's
All
right.
the owners have been doing that is focusing. Darren Eales, Amanda Stavely have all been focusing on that without complaining, without waving their fists.
Right.
But they're still waving their fists, but doing it in a very, very clever way.
Yeah.
so it's a war. It's a
It's a
war.
war, man. Jordy sees his Man City are screwed. I think they're actually go down to two leagues. Not sure if it's true, but some charges may be money laundering. Just a rumor. Yeah, we don't
No.
know. And to be honest with you, it'll be really tough to relegate Manchester City at this point. I don't know if they have the valor to do that. I think that
Yeah.
they're working with Everton, but it's
Yeah, and
tough.
look, some of these charges have come when there wasn't FFP rules that are now. So they're trying to book Man City for things that there wasn't FFP rules for now. And look, at the end of the day, Man City could be totally innocent. And then someone says, so why don't they just show it? Well, they don't have to show it.
Exactly.
If a police officer comes to your house without a search warrant and says, I want to search your house, I hope you're not gonna just say, yeah, please search my house. Say, go get a search warrant. And plus, why are they going to help you? Why? Because
why do you have to disrupt my peace?
Exactly, because Liverpool and Tottenham sent you. Is that why you're here? So
exactly.
There's a lot going on.
Farmer says Maradona coming down from heaven or wherever may not be enough. Yeah, that is true. Not sure he's in heaven. Anyway, Jamal says elites get away with everything. City will get a slap in the wrist.
Do you know what? I know that Man City are elites, but I almost feel like in some ways or the other, they're on our side without being on our side, if that makes sense.
They are.
You know,
because they know it. They know it. Exactly.
They know it. They're fighting the same cause. They're making the same votes as us. Even their fans. Even guys, I've seen so many arguments, especially with fans from from some of the legacy clubs, Liverpool, Man United, when they talk to Man City fans and they call their club plastic, and they say if you didn't have your owners, you wouldn't be where you are. Like it's not the same thing for their clubs. Like even without saying it, sometimes they believe in the natural order of things. They think that Man City, Newcastle, even West Ham, who won the Conference League, don't deserve to be anywhere near the top 4, the top 6, or winning leagues or dominating the league because they like it, because they've had it so long, so good for the way it's been for this time. They're happy when they see Newcastle getting bounced off the pitch. They're happy when they can't wait to see Man City charge, and maybe all those cups can be ripped away from them, because all those cups they've ripped away from them, Liverpool could have won multiple. So they believe, without saying it, in the natural order of things. And so there's a part of me that is really a Man City. I won't lie to you. It's really a Man City side that they're innocent. I hope that they're innocent and they just showed up the Premier League and all the sides so that then we can go and do the same thing. Make no mistake about it. Once Newcastle start winning Premier Leagues, once Newcastle start doing all of, even now before we've even done anything, they're going to be calling us plastic. They're going to be saying that we're a manufactured football club, but that we were lucky that we got the $1 million ticket. And I always say to them, so when we had Mike Ashley, what ticket did we have then? Exactly. What ticket did we have when Mike Ashley came to Newcastle? Were Liverpool, were Man United, were Tottenham, were any of those guys waving the flag for us, saying these guys are being absolutely screwed over by this owner? They've been used and abused. None of them were doing it. They were laughing when we were getting relegated. They didn't care. But now we haven't even sniffed a trophy just yet, and they're already saying, manufactured football club.
Everything is cute the first time.
Exactly.
Last season. Oh, exactly. Man, Newcastle, man. You know what? Good deal, Newcastle. You guys got out of. I'm happy for you. Next season, we started doing good because we did in the beginning.
It's even worse than that, because our owners haven't spent money like they wanted us to spend money. When they say to us, you only got to the Champions League because you spent money, but we've only spent the money that they spent. And when we made our transfers, they said it was underwhelming because we got Dan Burn, Kieran Trippier, Chris Wood, Matt Target, Bruno, an unknown Brazilian called Bruno Gomes. They said that's their first transfer window. Where's Mbappe? These guys aren't serious. Next transfer window, Gordon in the summer window. Gordon? These guys aren't serious. Champions League. And they forgot all they said about our transfers and said, it's because they're spending money. Look how FFP is helping them out. Now they're saying that what's wrong with FFP? Is making Newcastle better. We're getting better despite FFP. We've got Eddie Howe working absolute miracles, and now they want us to sack him because because half our team's gone away and we're not winning games. The problem is that Newcastle not only got rich, powerful owners, but they've got smart owners, and they got patient and long-term owners, and that's the worst thing they could ever have. So sorry, I went on that. I've
No, you're
been.
good. You're good. You're good. No, I definitely agree with that. Stephen Field says a lot of people would love to this battleize
Yeah. Exactly,
and
exactly.
UFC. Not many people like us. Yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
100%.
Uh,
100%.
Willie Farmer says when someone says oil money, what they really mean is bad people as owners, and that often rings of xenophobia and worse, outright racism. Look, and I've been in the military. I've been deployed a few times to the Middle East. I've been in South Korea,
Thank you for
and
your.
thank you, sir. And yes, in the Middle East, you see a lot of that, and but you also see amazing people, and so it's one of the things I think. And Farmer has been in the military as well. He told me one time. So you know, I agree with that to a certain extent. But like we can't judge someone because of, in this case, we're talking about the chairman, because something that we don't know he did or didn't do. And the same, people call oil money or oil club to whatever, to the city's owner in Abu Dhabi. I don't know, and I don't know what they could have done to be. So you know what I'm saying, to be labeled as bad people. So that's what I'm saying. Like we got to me, talk about specific individuals in specific cases. Now you're talking about the Saudi Arabia regime. Yes, we are essentially owned by them. Uh, but I don't know. So we never move on. Then we're gonna be bad people, and you know what I mean. It just, to me, I don't know. We can't dwell. You can say what you believe in, what you don't, what you feel like is right or wrong. 100% racism is wrong. 100%. God knows I've lived it where I live. Uh, Homophobic. I don't know as you say homophobism, but obviously homophobic is a bad deal, and it happened in Qatar. We had a World Cup in Qatar, and not a lot of Middle Eastern content creators that I've seen, they were happy about that. They didn't complain about that. As well as not a lot of, I've seen Jordan Henderson go for that, go against that. I mean, but then he ended up being playing over there in the Middle East. So you see what I'm saying? Like I don't even know who to really believe as far as what they say or what they do, because Jordan Henderson, he was LBGT plus advocate, and then he goes to play for a country that, to say the least, has issues or doesn't see this as a righteous thing or whatever. Again, this is not a political show, but at the end of the day, everybody's entitled to have their opinion. And I said one thing in the show: you are anybody, you Newcastle, anybody can say whatever they want without getting censored or banned. You can say whatever you want, and I will
Mm,
show your comment no matter what. And at the
mm.
end of the day, we might agree, we might disagree, but it's okay to show and to say. Everybody needs to have their say and needs to have their respect. So appreciate you, Farmer, and of course, there's bad things, but I don't necessarily believe that we, all of a sudden, us Newcastle supporters have become bad people, or actually that we believe in those beliefs just because we're supporters. And so, and to be talking about this specific case, has nothing to do with that. It's about, I don't know, I don't even really know what the hell's going on there, but you know, Stephen Field, we are sitting mid-table, but the media still want to talk about us. Yeah, that is true.
But
Uh,
I don't know, because the media has been mixed, because I've seen a lot of media talk about, kind of berating the FFP
mm,
and saying, look, Newcastle only sitting mid-table because they couldn't buy, because the FFP has cut their arms and legs from buying the players they want to. So that's the articles that I've seen, which is to my surprise, really. So and again, that's where I feel like our owners have gone a little bit overboard on the we're broke, we can't spend any money. Now my concern is that, like I was saying to you before, is in my mind we've got 40 to 60 million pounds to spend, but now because we've drive this narrative so hard, for us to go out and now buy a player for 70, 80
yeah,
million, even though it's
right.
very, very possible, it's going to look like, hey, what happened to you being broke?
Exactly. Exactly. Stephen Field says he said it in Parliament, Richard Masters today. Okay, well that's weird. Don't buy Henderson, by the way, leave him in right Saudi. Saudi can pick him up. Yeah. Yeah, Steven don't feel good about Henderson. That's what not a lot of Magpies do, of course. And Man City QC on 80
Yeah,
grand a
to keep
day.
this down the road. Yeah, I don't see nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
I don't know why people make a big thing out of it. I don't know how much. Like, if you got the money, spend it. Like, how much do you think Everton are paying their QCs? I hope Newcastle play. I can't tell you how I love, not just the. I almost feel like who our owners are more more than the money. Obviously, I want the money because we want to spend it, but our owners are nobody to play with. Like, they're clearly nobody to play with. Hence why there's this fear. There's this fear. No one's scared of Everton's owners because they just spend money like crazy. They don't even know what they're doing. No one's scared of Nottingham Forest owners. You know, buy 11 players with money that nobody knows. They just said, "Oh, we'll take deduction." They're scared of the owners that are willing to be patient. They're scared of the owners that have influence over other owners to get them to vote against the bigger clubs and stuff like that. They're scared of the owners who have peers in Man City and Chelsea who they can see eye to eye with. I'm not just talking from a football level, from a wider business and geopolitical level. That makes a whole other level of being able to deal with people. So,
all right, let's start talking about possible transfers, man. There's this kid that came out today. Rumors about him, Ederson. I thought it was a goalkeeper for once. I was like, what the hell?
Yeah.
And then, man. So he plays in Serie A, I believe, Atalanta, right?
Yeah.
And so he looks a lot like Calvin Phillips. Makes sense. We need somebody in midfield. Literally, if Bruno Guimaraes gets hurt or suspended, I don't know who we put in the midfield. I mean, we got Longstaff, Miley, and then somebody else, unless we change the way we're playing. And somebody's got to defend. And Longstaff or Miley are not really fit for that. So, I mean, what do you believe? I have a feeling that you think, I don't know yet, but I have a feeling that you think that this is like a deal that we've been working under the table.
Yeah.
And it might pop in at any moment now. Go ahead, tell me, man. What do you think?
Well, you're getting to know me very well. I think I don't know too much about this player. I didn't get to read the scouting report just yet. There's a player whose scouting report I did get to read, but I like the context around it because it's because apparently Atalanta have got financial issues and they're looking to offload players as quickly as possible. His contract runs out in 2025 and he's not signing anything. And I'm like, bingo, that's a Newcastle deal right there. And I don't know if you remember, and sometimes I say things, I don't always remember them or stick to them. I was saying that I don't know why Calvin Phillips is so publicly known to everybody. Like, even Eddie Howe mentioned them, our owners have mentioned them, and it's just so unlike our owners to be so open about the players they're looking to sign that it makes me think that this is a distraction, and in fact they're working on something else and somewhere else. Again, case in point, Barella Tonali. If you guys remember, when I saw the Barella stuff, I was off my seat. I said, we've cracked open the safe. I was all down. I said, I'm getting Barella. This is it. This is our Rubino moment. Obviously, I'm still very happy with Tonali. But the misdirect and the fact that they went on I think it was the Telegraph, and I believe it's Darren Ills, but it doesn't say, who essentially was gleefully saying, yeah, we let the people know, certain journalists that were getting Barella, but really we were always looking at Tonali deals. He's having some enjoyment out of, misdirecting people. So all in all, I wouldn't be surprised if this is the type of deal that we were really working on, and I think it wouldn't surprise me, for instance, that Man City probably have cottoned on to the fact that maybe we're being used here. Maybe Newcastle aren't really serious about this deal, and there's a bit of brinksmanship. Look, he could still come in.
Yeah, we need him. We need all the bodies, man.
Yeah, unless he's not as good as if he makes us worse, essentially. If he's Longstaff in disguise for you, Chris, then we might not need him. So we'll see. We'll see. I do though think that the reality is Joe Linton's possibly out for the season. Nick Pope's out for the season. It's insane now what our injuries are, and I think. I think the tipping point has been pushed with Joe Linton, especially where They're possibly some of their summer plans have to be pushed forward. We don't know when Harvey Barnes is going to come back. Joe Willock is a mystery, really. Elliot Anderson, we don't know when he's coming back, and even all those things. Matt
What,
Target, is he ever going to play again? So
right. And I also good piece of news is that we haven't heard anything about Bruno Guimaraes' hamstring. There was also Ian had told me that there might be rumors that his hamstring was a little bit affected, and he's looking good. So you
yeah,
know,
but we've got 18 games to go. I mean, if our owners, if the strategy is if they've because some people are saying that they're looking at the season as a dead rubber season, essentially, where we're happy to get 40, 50 points, survive, and then put all our money, get these rules enforced into the Premier League, and then spend the money that we really want to spend in the summer. It's a long-term strategy. But again, it's so risky because the players on the ground, your Isaks, your Botmans, our crown jewels, our youth are going to think, hold on, one season I was playing Champions League, now I'm finishing mid-table. Like, what's happening here? So we've already got pundits saying, "Oh, Arsenal should go for Isak." Like like we're nobodies.
Isak is
you
not
know,
going.
there's
I
not
just
going.
Isak is not going nowhere. People, and I don't know if yeah, I actually said it yesterday, so I didn't tell you that, but I was like, I I get like Fabrizio Romano is great. But yesterday he posted a picture of um, Bruno at Paris, and he just said nothing to do with the PSG rumors, just him on vacation, basically. And I'm like, what is the point of posting that? Like, other than you trying to create some energy out of this post, and you know what I mean. So like, Bruno Guimaraes is not going nowhere. He would not, even if PSG does make an offer, which they haven't. eh, um, he wouldn't go to Paris. I'm going to say that because by watching him, and I've been actually yesterday and today, earlier today, I went on the Bruno Guimaraes marathon, watching highlights for him in Newcastle. The way he has responded to the crowd, the way he acts when he celebrates goals, I can feel like this kid does not want to leave Newcastle at all. And yes, everybody has a price, right? That is a true because it is. It's football. And if like Mbappe, he was going to go to Real Madrid, but hey, the Qatar money looking good. He said, "You know what? I'm going to stay here a few years." It can happen, but I just don't have any incline to say that yes, unless they offer him the world, that he would leave otherwise. I mean,
Yeah, I think the only thing would be he's got ambition in his eyes, and he should have.
yeah,
And it's not to say that we're not ambitious, but like I'm tying it into what could possibly be our owner's long term thing. Where I hope this isn't the case, that they're looking at the season as a write off,
mm,
and they're going to save up what they're going to save up for the summer window, and try and loosen not only the rules of the Premier, the FFP rules, and get their sponsors in, and they have a 200-300 million pound war chest and go all out. The only problem with that is the in between, is the 18 games that we could be getting absolutely drenched and beaten by various teams because we didn't recruit in the summer. You can only, who's gonna, how can are the owners going to be able to come down to Bruno Guimaraes and reassure him when Real Madrid and Barcelona are there saying, mate, how do you feel like playing in the Champions League and the
yeah,
World Club Championships? What's this getting beaten by Nottingham Forest business, or Luton,
yeah,
and having Sean Longstaff and Maya next to you when you could have Jude Bellingham next
yeah.
to you? Like, that's
I think
heavy
I think
going, brother.
I think those clubs have a shot. Those clubs have a shot, but not Paris Saint Germain. Trust me. I don't. They to me they don't offer anything
He
bigger than
speaks
what we
French
do.
as well. He
Yeah,
speaks French now, and I wouldn't put it past. I'm not even. Do you know what it is? I love Bruno. I do love Newcastle more, and I think Newcastle
yeah,
are acting like got to act like a big club, and they will act like a big club.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah. 100%.
as much as I want him to stay and everything else, I
Which
believe that we're gonna have a plan. If
yeah,
anything,
yeah, 100%. Any other rumor? You mentioned a player that you read the scouting report. Um, and I'm actually looking at Ederson's myself right here, and he's doing pretty good. I mean, 5 goals in 20 games for a midfielder. That's not bad at all. Six
Mhm.
feet, 24 years old, right age to be
Yep.
fair. A really good age right there. He's not a young kid. He's not an old guy, and he's been playing 87 minutes average. That's a really good. I think he's looking good now. His value is 26 million euros. I don't think is that what they're asking for him, or do you have any idea?
Is that
Uh,
transfer market value for him?
yeah,
With the
well,
tran
this is I'm not looking at transfer market. I'm looking at Sofa Score.
Oh, okay,
So
okay, yeah,
yeah,
yes, yeah. Well, I assume that that's how what they value him as at. But
yeah,
I'm sure the Newcastle owners are even looking to spend even less on him because of Atalanta's financial situation.
right,
So unless there's competing clubs for him, or Atalanta are willing to say, yeah, we're not going to sell him now. We're going to sell him in the summer, where there's no guarantees that his form will continue, the price won't drop, and their financial situation doesn't improve, because they could be if I don't know what Italy's version of FFP is, but they could be subject to it as well.
right,
So it will be a bit of brinksmanship there as well. So we'll see.
yeah.
We'll see how that goes. But it sounds like exactly what we need, really. And
And
I see Bruno pushing up to the number 8 position, where he's dying to be.
and and definitely he would have a quick. I would say he would have a quick adjustment. I mean, having two Brazilians right there, especially in the
Exactly.
especially in the
Exactly.
midfield where you got to communicate. I
Exactly.
think that's going to be amazing. Maybe
Exactly.
hopefully it happens. I think this leaked a little bit earlier than they had hoped, but at this point, when you got about 15 days, 14 days to get it done, I don't think they would mind.
Yeah, I
Uh,
think I think they tried to say that the agents spoke, but the club hasn't spoken. But so it could be agent driven or whatnot. I don't know. Or it's
yeah.
maybe Atalanta leaked it. Atalanta leaked it and said, "Hey, we're looking to sell. Does anybody want to buy before Newcastle getting for 13 million?" For instance,
What
trying to get.
what was the player that you were talking about that you read the scouting
I
report on?
think Ian even mentioned him. I was looking at it before. Ishmael Sabari, I think it is.
Oh, that's
Uh,
the one that was missing. Yeah.
Yeah, plays for PSV, I believe, just behind Bakayoko. So he's like a I want to say right wing forward, right mid, right wing forward. He plays in that pocket in between where exactly where Miguel Almiron plays. Um, he's 2021, young Moroccan player, excellent press resistance, carries the ball really well, box to box, works very, very hard off the ball, has a real attacking intent. Needs to improve a little bit on his striking, but that's nothing that Eddie Howe can't fix, essentially. Um, Often he's the man who's been providing Bakayoko either directly through passing or in terms of his goals and assists, or making the runs to kind of divert or distract the other defenders and allow Bakayoko to get in. So he's essentially everything that don't be cruel to Miggy, but especially in the finishing end of the final third is what Miggy sometimes most of the time isn't.
Right.
So you can see why Newcastle are looking at this boy.
Yep, yep, that is true. We're gonna go to the comments before we wrap up this transfer show. It was really good. Let's go with Jordy C says Liverpool can't call anyone about having money. They only had all their success in the 70s, 80s because they had the richest
Yeah,
owners. They did have a lot of success in the 2000s. Now Champions League winning Champions League is a big deal. Um, but yeah, I get the point. Jordy C says and still hate them for buying Peter Beardsley. Yeah. Yamada says, how can a quote plastic club be the only one to never drop below 30K attendance in the Premier League? This club will always have more soul than the rest of them. That's one thing that I always agree with. You're never gonna lose St. James's Park and its atmosphere. And also, this is more because I don't give a damn about what people think. This is more for our own fans. People that are born, that are Geordies, people that are born there, that have sort of nostalgia or fear of the club expanding. I understand it, but if the club needs to be one of the biggest clubs in the world, and I think that we can do that. I think that we can. And that might be crazy to say, but I think that we can become that, and it is okay. It will never lose the essence of Newcastle United at St. James's Park and at Newcastle upon Tyne. You'll never lose that. because people are there, go to the stadium for the most part are going to be from that area. And listen, be open minded because to anybody, passion didn't wasn't invented in Newcastle upon time. I know that there's a lot of passion in Newcastle, but there's also passionate people all over the world. And so imagine getting South American fans. They have passion like anybody else. A little too much because they'll start throwing rocks at the rivals bus. You know what I mean? But listen, let's grow the club worldwide, and it's only going to help us. It's only going to help us in the long run. Yamas says homeless with Ashley or bowling with Saudi. The heart of the club is always there. Goodness. Good, yeah. And that's the thing. I will tell you this though. One of the things that separates us from Manchester City, they never and they don't have now the soul that we have on Newcastle. Unfortunately, their fans are not. We're not. They're not the same. They're just not the same. And this is no banter. This is all banter aside, but it is just the honest truth. And so imagine us having our soul like we have it at Newcastle with
Yeah, I think when rivals in particular talk about Plastic Club and Man City and us, I don't think they're necessarily just talking about the fans. What they're trying to say is that for instance, in Man City's case in particular, it's not us just yet because we haven't won anything. Is that they it's almost like they've been they are manufactured. They've been given all this money. They were nobody before. Now they've been given all this money. Their growth isn't organic. This magical word, organic. They're not Man United with a history of Man United, with a history of Liverpool, and everything that's come away with it. There's and it's an unwarranted bias because it's like they just got these rich owners that did that. And I'm like, again, what the previous commenter says, well, hold on, the Liverpool got rich owners. They just didn't have they just had their equivalent of Saudi owners then. They just came in a different guise. But
Right,
for some reason, it's organic. It's not organic because they haven't grown like a Man United or Liverpool. No, they are organic. They're just organic in our days and times with the level of ownership and people that we have. What was organic about Newcastle under Mike Ashley? What was organic about that? So for me,
it was
people are just trying
organically
to
horrendous.
exactly. So they're just trying to create this, almost trying to make this almost feel better because they haven't been able to keep their they haven't been able to keep their dominance. So I don't buy any of that. I don't take any of that. So it's almost like you don't belong here. You don't belong here. So we're gonna slander you. We're gonna say all these things about you. But you're plastic. You haven't got any fans. You wouldn't be here had it not been for your owners. Like these things don't apply to them as
Exactly. If
well.
if it wasn't
So
for Ramo Abramovich, what would Chelsea be? Just another club. You know what I mean? They wouldn't even be in the position that they are. And to be fair with you, all owners, all owners are to a certain extent entitled people. It just and that's generalizing, and I shouldn't do that. But I'm just trying to explain that this oil money situation, this plastic fans. I do agree with um, what Farmer was saying. There's issues there, but everybody has issues. Look at all these. You think that the Gronkies are great people because they're American? No, do you think they really care so much about? Because I was hearing, do you think that the prince cares about Newcastle? Do you really think that? I don't give a shit. Do you think that the Gronkies care about Arsenal? They own every sports team in America. Do you think they care about every single one of them? Hell no. You know what I mean? They're businessmen and they see a business future. And so, but actually, when I looked at Mr. Our chairman, what I saw in his eyes, it might have been for show. He might be the best actor, but what I saw in his eyes
he
when he
cares.
was in St. James's Park,
Look, he cares about winning, and that's what matters to
yeah,
me. I want to
and
see
that's what
Newcastle.
matters to me.
I want to see Newcastle lift a trophy. I
That is
haven't.
that is
I'm not 70. I know that Chris likes to say I'm 70 years old and 75 years old, but I'm not. And I haven't. And I haven't seen Newcastle lift a trophy. And please don't tell me championship trophy. Please, we don't ever. Let's never use that
yeah,
in a conversation with
exactly.
people. I want to see Newcastle United
That
lift
is
major trophies and lift major honors.
yes, sir. Yes, sir. Stephen Field, good night, lads. He says we get there. Keep the faith to all NUFC fans everywhere. Appreciate you, brother. Have a good night. We'll keep reading your comments before we go off. Joe Willock's Achilles problem, but not near recovery. Yeah, man, he's
Yeah.
we miss him so bad, so bad. Steven Fields, Real Ferdinand telling Arsenal to go for Isak. Hate that wanker, rubber lips. But look, yeah, they missed out. Everybody missed out on Isak. Everybody, Liverpool. Liverpool fans tell you, Arsenal fans tell you. You know what I mean? So, hey, we got him. We got the second best striker in the league, and if we create enough football for him, I might change that to a first, to the first, to the best striker. And Haaland got a lot of marketing, but we got to see. I mean, what determines a great striker? You know, scoring goals. So put Isak in Manchester City right now and see if he doesn't score goals. You know what I mean? Stephen Field, let's face it, to all our signings have been nobodies. We are linked with we were linked with Isak for 63 mil when they said we were skint. And didn't understand the comment. But I don't know. Philip, did you get that one?
Yeah, I think he's trying to say that, you know, essentially Newcastle have been buying players that aren't, you know, on the highlight reels or known and stuff like that. But and when we spent 63 million on Isak, because actually that season, or the season previous, he only scored 6 goals. He played better in the previous seasons. And so again, people were like, oh, who's this guy? Newcastle, or do they know what they're doing? It turns out they did know what they're doing. And we bought Anthony Gordon. And for half a year, to be honest, people were like, why did they buy him 45 million when they could have got this? And I said, and I remember talking to a few rival fans earlier, about halfway through this season, saying that Anthony Gordon, because they were doing like team of the year so far for 10 weeks or whatnot. And I was saying, they were saying Martinelli, and I said Anthony Gordon's better. At the time, he even had better goals and assists. Like, Anthony Gordon, who's Anthony Gordon? Because of a name, not watching the player. And now they're saying, oh, okay, yeah, that Anthony Gordon. He scored 5 goals against the 6 of the top 6. He's got like 7, 8. He's got 13, 14 overall goal contribution. Anthony Gordon. You just have to watch. You have to watch rather than looking at the name of a player sometimes to see what's going on.
Skint means no money. Yes, thank you. That I appreciate. Some words I don't get.
Oh, you was asking what skint means. Sorry, I didn't.
Oh no,
realize.
no. I mean, I was trying to. Yeah, no, I didn't get the comment altogether. But yeah, no, I appreciate Stephen Field. I appreciate everybody's patience with my. I mean, it's English. I speak English anyway, but like English. That's weird.
I'll translate for you.
That is true. Listen, we had a great show, man. It was nice. Please smash the like button on your way out, and if you're new, subscribe to the channel. And of course, we're going to be live tomorrow as well with something. There's always something to talk about. We don't have a game this weekend, so we might get a weekend off. Maybe we'll see. We still got to come on and talk. But regardless, I appreciate your support. If you are listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, etc., please rate us, smash the like button, follow us on there as well. And if you want to join us live and have your say, come on the YouTube side at the. You can find me right now at the American Magpie and in UFC Insiders. We're kind of putting that name out there as well because this show is not just about me. I am the American Magpie. Chris, you always know me as that, but we have people as well that are not American that are great contributors to the show, like Philip, like Ian Davison, and others that are coming on the show as well. So just don't want to make it about myself. I want to make it about them as well. And of course, you can find Philip on his YouTube channel, the Toon Tactics TV, link in the description. So listen, I appreciate everybody for supporting this channel. And yeah, we'll see each other on the next one. Philip, thank you, brother.
Thank you, sir, and thank you to the chat. Great show. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And onwards and upwards. God bless everyone.
God bless.